Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Femuscle Fridays, episode 2. I am your host, Jeremy Remo, aka Fem Physique Fan, and we have a very good show lineup for you today, interesting topics and such. I'll go ahead and introduce the guests that have showed up so far. Right now, he is a longtime fan like myself of women's bodybuilding and women's physique. He has his own podcast, All the Rage George page. Please go and check him out. He's done quite a number of interviews and quite a number of roundtable discussions like this. Please say hello to All the Rage George.
The emperor of female bodybuilding talk. And also the Joker. I had to do it, man.
There you go. I know. Next up, we have IFBB Pro female bodybuilder Janine Lenkowski. Thank you for coming on another episode of the show. Appreciate it.
Hi, thank you so much, and it's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. And then just showed up, he's a men's IFBB pro, but a longtime supporter and also advocate of female bodybuilding and women's physique, Big Keith Williams. Hi, Keith. Welcome. How are you doing?
My brother! My dear brother Nipsey!
Hey, great interview today, brother, with my coach.
Awesome. You're welcome, brother. It was fun. It's great. I hope we can do it again. She's really Melody is Janine. I just did an interview this afternoon with Melody Specco.
I saw it. It was good. It was really good.
I was just so excited to talk. We were trying to have this for a long time, but just your man. It's all you. I mean,
that's good though. So, well, the starting topic. I don't know how else it's going to be showing up, but. Starting topic, as I had posted over on my IG, was a phenomenon that you tend to see a lot. You tend to see talked about in some places here and there, but it's like I don't know if anybody's ever done like a roundtable discussion like this on it. Earlier, I did something smaller than this with my previous channel, but I also wanted to throw it in here, and that's the subject of post-show blues, and just. What is that phenomenon, and then how do various different people deal with it? And it's just interesting that I hear this talked about just sporadically, but it's interesting that it would think that a subject like this would be like mandatory for coaches to go over with newer or younger competitors who are just starting out and like saying, look, after the show, this is more than likely what you're going to figure out. If so, then this is what you're going through, and here's how you deal with it. For both Keith and Janine, since you're the competitors here, what was the first time that you experienced it when you were just starting out? And then if you yourself has experienced post-show blues, how was it that you felt? What were some of the things? And now looking back that it was post-show blues, what were you feeling when that first happened to you? Either one of you.
Well, me, tired, bloated, because it was my first time ever using gear. Let's be honest. And I kind of just went off of everything, just cold turkey, and none of the side effects of what was going to happen, sex drive, energy levels low, whole bunch of things. So it's a kind of a mind fucking experience. And, after, training this last year for a show, it's just detoxifying your body, and some people do it and some people don't. I believe that you have to do it. like so we could get my blood work done, just to show me where I'm at as I get ready for the next season. But it's exhausting, you know. I mean, because you got the bounce back from depleting water, and cutting, as you go into a show, and then you slowly wean yourself off of things and you get lethargic, and it's kind of fucking depressing for a minute, but I over the think now 16, 17 years, I've understand how to do things better, and it's gotten better. So and it's different for everybody. I mean, when Tina did her first show, and I'll speak for her because I'm her husband. She's on her way to our bar to work. Um, she was, her, especially women, her body was a lot. You wouldn't even thought she had just won a title based off of, you know, uh, winning Miss International and things like that. But kind of the same deals. I mean, and I'm sure it's a little bit different and harder for women than men, who use certain supplements, because of the female hormones versus the male hormones. So it's all different for everybody. But that's just speaking from us, from our two perspectives. Who's at the door?
Okay. Janine, what are your thoughts? What was it like the first time as a female competitor? Like Keith was saying, hormonal difference. What was the like the first time you experienced it before you knew what it was?
Well, you go through phases, right? So like right after show, like I'm talking when I was a rookie amateur, right after show, it was more the food thing, right? Like I want to eat everything that was on my list. And then some people get sick. I used to get sick, and my brother-in-law would bet when I'd be sick, and he'd always win the pot. You know what I mean? Like I'd eat my food and then it was right out because your body can't do it. Coaches don't talk about that, how to eat after a show. So that there was a huge mind fuck when you're young, right? Your hormones, tired, learning how to implement new routines. Like so it's like I'll use this as an example. The wedding hit and now you're down. Now the honeymoon is over, right? That exact same feeling happens with a show. So it's almost taboo to talk about. People don't want to talk about it. They think they're perfect all the time. Give your head a shake because you're never 100% perfect all the time. Your body goes through a roller coaster. Um, as Keith said, implementing your water back in, understanding your foods, figuring out your training, getting your right rest, backing your cardio off. Like there's a whole list of stuff that happened. If you stop cold turkey, you are in trouble. You will have a hard time getting your body back to where you were when you started from the first time. So what happens is a lot of people just don't want to talk about it. They just kind of go off and I'm on off season. Off season means you ain't doing shit. You're sitting at home playing video games, eating bonbons, right? But a real athlete, it's an improvement season. It's not an off season. You're improving your physique so that you can come in better the following year. And the improvements happen after the show, right? When you're implementing increasing food, cutting cardio back, your supplement cycle is changing. You're slowly weaning off certain things. You never want to end anything cold turkey. You want to get your blood work done and see how your levels were. If your test levels were too high, if your estrogen was too high, or if your estrogen was too low. Like there's so many variables that come in when it comes to the bodybuilding blues or the blues in general. The highs and lows of bodybuilding actually is what my book is going to be called. I'm almost done, but it talks all about that kind of stuff and understanding and reprogramming yourself to set a new goal because you get depressed. You don't want to set a goal. You don't even know where you are sometimes. You're like, food doesn't look appealing to me, right? Like I want to go train, but you don't even want to eat. So it's like teaching you how to eat again to reach those new goals, right? So it's all about resetting goals, changing your mindset with all of that as well. So it's a really hard thing to go through, and a lot of coaches don't even know how to touch on that subject. They know how to get you to point A, but they don't know how to get you to B, C, back to A again. And that's
Yeah.
the problem that we have. And that's why I sat down and really, worked on it. I actually was doing a seminar on it. And then I decided to take that seminar and make it into a book. So I'm just almost finished. I was trying to get it done after this last season, but it's going to be ready soon. Like it's because I want to go into depth, but I don't want to go too in depth on the drug cycles because everybody has different cycles. So that would be a reason why to contact me to help you with the cycle stuff.
Hmm.
and that kind of stuff. Because everybody, like I said, everybody's body's different and everybody responds differently. And me personally, I'm grateful to be an empowerment life coach and that has gone through all of this stuff myself, that I'm able to coach athletes going forward so that they know how to deal with this kind of problem that we do have after show.
And to me, that's just stunning. I'm just a fan on the outside looking in, but just what you said, that coaches, a lot of coaches, won't share this information, or like you said, it's like they just get you to a certain point. I mean, you know what the show. I mean, these guys that are coaching or being in the coaching thing. I mean, if they're going to be covering all aspects of bodybuilding, they need to be covering the show that stuff happens after the show, in addition to leading up to it. Because, like you said, and you both have used, Keith and Janine, you both use the same word, mindfuck, to describe this situation, especially younger or newer competitors who have no clue about this, going into competition and then having these feelings or experiences. Going, like you said, there's the wedding and the honeymoon, and then there's the till death do us part. But it's just a shock to me that that's not covered more. Why is there any reason for that? I mean, do you think it's just they don't want to drive away clients when they say, oh, by the way, after the show, because of hormonal imbalance or what have you, you're going to have a mind fuck? Do you think that maybe it's out of fear of losing clients that they don't talk about it?
Well, let's be fair. Okay, let's be fair to, there's people who run supplements and there's people who don't run supplements. So let's be fair.
Okay.
So we have to be very cognizant of what we're saying, because it's not the same effects for a natty versus a person that's unnatty. So let's put that out there.
All right.
So, and because I've trained, athletes in the NAMBF, several 5 or 6 girls who turn pro, who don't have those effects of people who, and again, let's clear. This is a personal decision that we're making for ourselves. As a trainer, I do not, go up to a client and says, you need to do this. I make them aware of their options, and if they choose to go that direction, they choose to do. And I got the show coming up in 3 weeks where I got athletes who are competing in NPC show that are natty and some are non-natty. So the different effects between the two are going to be different. The funny thing is when you talk to these young amateurs who are wanting to compete, they're like, oh, I can't. Like today I had a conversation with one of my girls who are doing figure and women's physique. She's like, oh, I can't wait to have my cannolis and this, that, and the other. And then I had another person says, I can't wait to have steak and whatever. And I'm just like, I didn't want none of that shit. I wanted some fruit. I wanted some fruit, get hydrated. Tina would think after the Titan show that Janine and her in, she wanted to go to Applebee's. I think I went to Olive Garden. It was a simple dinner. It wasn't nothing extravagant. The first thing when I was training with Flex Wheeler, he said, the first thing you do is you got to get hydrated. The first thing you do after a show, you got to push fluids because, I've gone shows like Dallas Pro when it was around 24 hours without having water. So the first thing you got to do is push fluids, and he's a good trainer because he's been through it. Janine's a great trainer. I'm a good trainer. So we know, as athletes, we know, so we probably didn't know that at the beginning, but we know that now. So you start to prepare them for that. It's called a rebound effect. So you start to prepare them for what's going to happen, and even some natural competitors, when you pull their water, you cut their water because everybody has to get dried out and shredded. You have to prepare them for the aftermath of what's going to happen. And I don't know, and sometimes it comes with experience. Janine's been a pro for a long time. I've been a pro for a long time. I've been around great coaches. She's been around good coaches. So we know those things. And like the girl who you had on when she said the 5 rules of a good trainer, the mental aspect of it.
Rachel Daniels. Yeah,
Rachel Daniels. Those things are huge in our industry. And the biggest thing to me is being authentic and transparent with your athlete, and being authentic and transparent with yourself. So, but our industry is, it's frustrating when you walk around the gym because everybody's a bodybuilder. Everybody's a bodybuilder. No, you're a fucking gym rat. Somebody once asked me about influencers, whatever. I watched this thing the other day about this guy who was walking around asking people their height and their weight, and people want to fight him. And I'm like, but these guys have like 1 million. I think we talked about this last week. These guys have like 1 million followers, Stacks or whatever this guy's name is. And it's, Rick Pianza used to give horrible advice to kids, like teenagers. You should use growth and you should use this. So it all depends who you're talking to, and it's like we said last week. It's your due diligence to find out what that person's level of experiences are. Some people are smoke and mirrors, like we were talking about last week with Matt Jensen. But again, at the end of the day, it's we got Google these days, so it's a matter of going on. A guy asked Melanie a question on George or so about being losing 70 pounds and this, that, and other, and she was honest. It's like phases to this, and like Janine said, it's phases to the rebounds effect of what we do. But as a good coach, that's what you have to prepare your athletes for. That's what we have to prepare ourselves for. I'm in a much better mental space coming off of what shows I just done versus in the past, just because Melanie has everything stacked out, planned out for me and Tina as we finish our shows, trying to get back to normal, and then get ready for the next season.
Yeah. And one thing is, like, I think with some of these coaches, deal with the mental part of somebody. It's not their education on. That's why I think with some people you should go see a therapist, and because those people understand how the mind works. Not all the aspects of the mind, but enough where they can tell you what you need. Like I know I talk to ladies where they tell me that when they after the show they're not as pumped. They feel like as I say like this. One thing when y'all on the stage, you are on the stage with bright light shining on y'all. Y'all are dehydrated. Y'all hungry. And I mean, and it's just your body's going through something. What we see as the outsiders, we see y'all pumped and ripped and shredded. That's what we see, but we don't know what y'all go through to get to that level. Like the whole thing with I know water loading. That's very most important for y'all. You want to, especially you want to build back because you don't want your body to get dried out because you can die from dehydration. It's a risk y'all take. And when these competitors say, what, we're done, and what's the next thing to do? I mean, I don't know. And you reach out to your coach, and your coach should understand anything about this. And if he can't help you with it, he say, let me see somebody who can help you.
Play devil's advocate with you for a minute, George. What would you say to someone who would come back and say, but for that very reason, because most, like a behavioral therapist or something like that, isn't familiar with bodybuilding competition and such, would it behoove how would it behoove the person to go to them if they have no idea why it's happening, if they've never competed in bodybuilding before? They're coming from like a regular everyday person, not someone who lives an extreme lifestyle like a bodybuilder. So would the therapy actually help them, or would the therapist even be able to help them if they don't understand this aspect? That it's tied to training, it's tied to the show, it's tied to after the show, things that most therapists would not have any idea about. So wouldn't it be better to go to play again, playing devil's advocate, to go to someone like a Keith or a Janine rather than a therapist?
Yeah, it'd be
Because
good.
it seems like you would be throwing your money away if you
Well,
were going to the therapist rather than them.
it'd be good to go to that, but sometimes you might need a little more help. And there are sports therapists that work with athletes, understand how even bodybuilding, it may not be a mainstream sport, but there are those sports athletes that understand the training, what you go through, And it's good to talk to someone like Keith or Janine who has been through it. But sometimes you might need that little more help. Someone who really understands what is involved in as an athlete. Sometimes you might need someone who can really give you some feedback. And there are those specialists who deal with athletes. You don't have to go to the everyday therapist. You can go to somebody who specializes. I know it's going to be a cost, but if you can find someone who can help you, it doesn't cost you that much or cost you nothing. Oh, that's good. But when it gets to the point where you really, really need the help, it's best to go to somebody who might understand this and who can really help you.
Well, it's like Dr. Priss said a long time ago. He's embarrassed of his industry. Who's an IFBB judge, an Olympia judge, and he's blatantly came out and said it. He says he's embarrassed in his industry as a whole that even as pro bodybuilders, we can't be honest and transparent with our doctors because they judge us. Now I have a great doctor, and they both know what I do, how I get tested, everything else. They're awesome. Gene Schrader is an unbelievable doctor. But not a lot of athletes can go to their doctor and be authentic and transparent like that and be like, look, this is what I'm doing. This is my job, being honest, and that's why you go back after doing shows and you get the blood work so you can see it. And that blood work mainly goes to my coach, because my coach works in the lab. She understands what she's doing, so I trust her. She, like I said, she's also been through it herself for many, many years as a pro, IFBB pro. So, sometimes, like you said, it's probably, I don't know very many people, the statistical number of people going through a psychiatrist after a show. You usually go up to, I put the responsibility on my trainer, who I trust, because that's the person who is also telling me what I'm doing. And George just would tell you, Melanie said, we follow her plan to the T, and this year is the best we ever looked. So I'm going to entrust her to say, hey, takes X, Y, and Z, eat X, Y, and Z, train this way and this, all this other stuff. What other person to come back to and look at says, hey, well, I'm feeling this way, because she knows, and Janine knows this as well, that we all understand how we feel and what we're going through as athletes, and who's better to understand it than your coach.
Mm. Janine, what are your thoughts on what George proposed, going and seeing a therapist going and seeing a therapist after a show to deal with post-show blues?
Well, I've actually gone to see therapists for
Okay.
like sports therapists, because I've been an athlete my whole career, right? From gymnastics up. So I've had to go to therapists and talk about certain things. And therapists touch on different things. A lot of them don't understand the extreme sport. They understand, the rest, the training, all the stuff that goes into it, but they don't understand the feelings that we go through because they have not experienced it. There's very few probably therapists out there that actually have gone through it, but the most important person is your coach. And coaches have to explain this to athletes. And if they don't know how, then they need to start pointing them to the right direction so that they can get that help and hire someone to help them. Yes, it's an expense, but it's an expense because all of us that have done it are able to actually work with athletes going through this because we've experienced it. So our experience is worth something as well. But little tidbits of information that we can throw out is great as well, right? But that's just tidbits of information. You got to go deeper into some of these athletes too, because some of them could have eating disorders, right? So now you're dealing with body dysmorphia after a show because you swell up, right? And then you lose your lines. All this work has happened. I don't know what to do. So there's a lot of components that happen with each athlete, and men deal with this too. This body dysmorphia like crazy. It's not just women. So it's really an important discussion to have with your clients, and I have it with all my clients I work with. Like I'm with them all the way through improvement, showtime, what to expect, why you're feeling this way on this supplement, if you're taking supplements, even over-the-counter supplements. Some people may have reactions depending on their body. Like I can't take vitamin C. I just break out in hives. So, and that's just like an everyday thing. So like certain things will do certain things to people's bodies. And like Keith said, I work with natural athletes and I work with non-natural athletes. I competed nationals all the way until almost the very end, natural, with no help of other supplements, put it that way. But even that, I mean, you don't need to use a lot of anything, but it's just understanding how to come off, how all the emotions and all the feelings you're going to go through with coming out of a show. Even professional athletes in other sports, football, whatever, they still go through the same shit. They're mental. It's mental. You won the championship. Now you're like, oh shit, now what do we do? Oh, we go back to training. But the coach will give them a talk on, okay, now we're going to come up with a new game plan. So the same thing the same thing happens in bodybuilding as well. You got to come up with a new game plan. Not everything that worked last year is going to work the next year. Things have to constantly change and evolve. If you stay with the same plan all the time, your body's not going to change and you may still feel the exact same. You may have other things happening. So it's really, like I said, it's super important to like even journal with going through all this stuff, because journaling will totally help you understand what you're going through and feeling through the process of the bodybuilding blues, or even going into show. It's very important to track your stuff. I don't track my weights and stuff like that because I've been training for so long. I know I remember all my clients' weights. Like,
Wow.
like
Okay.
I know when I walk in what I'm doing and where I'm training. But that's years and years of experience. I haven't used a clipboard in years in the gym with my clients. I just know what
Yep.
needs to be done.
Mm.
And I know what we're training. I know our weights. So the same thing, like journaling up into the show will help you understand your process. And then the day of show, you can write down how you're feeling and then how you're feeling after that so that you can eliminate certain things because you can't eliminate everything. You have to figure out the puzzle. It's always a puzzle. Everybody is a puzzle that has different components in it. And then you have to figure out what's happening here and there. Like it's easy to fix the cardio thing, back the cardio off, still keep it in so that we can push the water through. Hit the gym after the show, nothing heavy. You know how everyone would go in heavy. All you want to do is push the water through the body. So like sometimes it's the first 2 weeks, you're just going light, but it's just, you're getting movement. You're putting in new food, more carbs, sodium, water. You've got to push that through the body. And what better way than to do light workouts through that? Nothing crazy and kill it, especially too if you're coming off diuretics. Like, so there's a lot of components that come into that, but just light workouts, going for a walk, drinking your water, all that kind of stuff, rest and listen to your
I'm
body.
doing right now.
Big on journaling with my people
Hmm.
for that.
So and it's wonderful to hear that, Janine and Keith. It's wonderful to hear this information. It just is the thing that frustrates me so much is that you've got other competitors, younger competitors, newer competitors who have coaches or have trainers that are not sharing this. And they come
That's a
on
bad
after
coach.
and they come after the show and it's like what is going on here? And they're struggling and looking for answers, but they can't find them
Well,
because because the person some of the people that they're trusting, it's like, what do I do here? To piggyback on something you said, Keith, when Rachel Daniels came out with that list and like red flags of a coach, and then just especially from Janine, but also from Keith, what would be a red flag to add to that list in terms of post-show blues and coaches? What would be a red flag in regards to this if they do or don't cover it, or would that even be a red flag to begin with?
Lack of communication would be number
Yeah.
one. The cutoff, you
Yeah.
know, some coaches just cut you off right after the show. Like, boom, done. So I would say the lack of communication for one.
Well, I tell people, some people, because I've trained a lot of people for a lot of years, I'm emotionally involved in my client. So I'm not just there, to collect a check. I am emotionally involved. I'm feeling what they're feeling on stage. I'm sitting there, when Tina's on stage, Janine probably can hear me. I'm yelling at the top of my lungs. Oh, you're all these different things. And even with your regular clients, you feel their emotions. So those are things that for me, if your coach is not emotionally involved, because here's the thing, we all started somewhere and we all were treated that way at some point in time. So I never, as a judge, as a competitor, as a client, I never wanted my people to feel that way. So I'm going to give them, whether it's getting ready to get tan, you're going to sugar scrub, you're going to, shave, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. You make sure they're prepared. They have a food list. It's just like she said before, I don't premeditate my, a lot of trainers and she's right. It's a bad sign of a trainer who says, well, this is what we're going to have this week of the show. No, it's a 3 hour process because the body changes every 3 hours. So these, like she said, those are red flags for me. For somebody says, well, the day of the show, this is what we're going to have. We had that experience with one of Tina's former coaches for this day. And I go, how the hell are you doing that? And it was at the World Championships. I said, how the hell are you doing that when the person body changes every 3 hours? She's traveling and all this other stuff. How are you sitting there setting these meals up like that? You can't do that. So again, those are red flags. Those are red flags. Those are red flags. When a trainer start giving excuses to things, those are red flags. Those are red flags. So, everything is with me as a coach, it's a process. It's a step-by-step process. Is it tedious? Is it tiring sometimes? Absolutely. But as a coach, as a competitor, that's what I want to see for my clients. That's what I want my coach to do for me, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, and something with the young competitors, their mindset is everything has to be this is fast, fast, fast. They want everything hot and ready. That's what just any young body. But nothing is as easy as you think. You have to work. As you both have told me quite often in interviews, be consistent. And then sometimes they feel like I have a secret and they don't want to share it. And then you got to think about this is a sport where it's supposed to be. It's a very small community. You have to meet this. Say you might see the same person behind the stage, if not in the audience, on the stage. You're going to cross paths, and it's good to have good communication, form good bonds and friendship. Like when I was talking with Melanie, how she talked about finally about you, Janine, how y'all were friends, y'all knew each other, you competed together. She talked finally about Keith because that's her coach, and they know each other for years. You need these relationships because you know what? I know bodybuilding is kind of like a lonesome sport, but it does take a team to work together. And sometimes it's like a family somewhat. Like I've talked to people say like, oh, this is somebody on the show, haven't seen him a long time. It's like, seeing like a family member. And the emotional part of this is that people need to understand that, especially people like us who are outsiders, who don't know. Like sometimes I have ladies where I reach out for an interview and they tell me, I'm sorry, I didn't get back to you because I'm so busy. I understand because you know what? I've become friends with some of y'all people and I really learned some stuff from what you tell me from like you're dealing with not just getting ready for competitions and life in general. Like with you, Keith, you got your kids, you got this, you got that, what you went through 2 or 3 years ago. You, Janine, what you went through with your surgeries, and then what the hurricanes that hit. You hectic sometimes happens in life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that everybody needs to come together. And when you see something like this, don't be silent. Like especially the Black community, mental health is something that we don't talk about too much because we think it's a white people thing, but it's a human thing. We're all humans. Mm-hmm. So when we have an issue, we need to seek the help. And that's the thing is some people may not want to seek the help, or they're too afraid that they feel like it's a stigma when you say I have an issue, I have a problem. I just did a show. I'm depressed. I don't know what to talk to. You talk to your coach. Your coach might have the answer, and then you feel like I got to do this all on my own. But sometimes it's hard. You try to do something on your own.
Here's the thing, Dave Palumbo once told me this, and I respect Dave Palumbo a lot. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. He said the difference between you, Keith, and everybody else is the reason why you're the smartest guy in the room because you're always asking questions. Charles Glass tell you the same thing. I'm always asking questions. Smartest guy in the room and the smartest person in the room is always going to ask questions. I may not have the answer, so I may have to outsource to Janine. I may have to outsource to my brother Stan because I may not know the answer. So when you have a person like myself who don't have all the answers, I'll reach out to somebody like, in the body dysmorphia, I think is real. Flex Wheeler, who probably had the prettiest body to ever step on stage, just this period. When I trained with Flex, said he was never happy about what he's seen in the mirror. I said, what? How is that? I said, I'll take that fucking look any day of the way. But he said, and I moved out to San Jose. Me and my brother Stan moved out to San Jose for a whole year of training when we were getting ready to turn pro. And he said, I was never happy by what I seen. So how crazy is that? So that's how much of a mental, when I say mind fuck, this plays on athletes. Because we're chasing after perfection and there's no such thing. There's no such thing. And so that in itself just mentally just screws with you because you're just chasing, and it's never there. So these experiences that I've went through, and I'm sure that Janine's went through, we can tell our clients like, look, this is what you're about to come up against. So you just don't run into a wall. It's just like when I get ready for a scuba diving trip, they're like, this is the wall you're going to hit in Florida. This is where we need to be. This is your depth, this, that, and other. So I don't die when I'm 90 feet underwater. So,
and it's like it's for me. It's like after all these decades, everything I know about this about women's bodybuilding is the same thing. Listening to what other people are saying, reading about what they have to say, and then asking questions like DMing people. Said you mentioned this sort of thing. You mentioned this about training. You mentioned this about diet. How does that affect things? And this podcast is a direct extension of that because I'm wanting to pick the brains of people who've been doing this for decades because I still have questions about this, but to learn and to just learn from people like yourself more about this lifestyle, more about competition and such like that. And I encourage other people, other fans like George and myself, go out and do your own thing like this, like David over on FEB Forum, that he's gotten into this full bore, and people are appreciating the stuff that he's doing too. So it's like you said, Keith, asking questions is so important because it's like us fans good grief, do we have questions?
Yeah, because
So because again, it's like George said, we're on the outside looking in. We're not living the lifestyle. We're just trying to understand it. We're trying to we can't relate to it, obviously,
Yeah.
but we're
Well,
just trying to still get information about it.
yeah,
So
and it's
right.
like Melanie said earlier with George. She's like, our sport has evolutionized since she competed. Like she said, I would get killed by the girls these days. The sport keeps evolutionizing and with food and gear and all kinds of stuff. So things are constantly changing. So you got to keep up with the times, or you're gonna get
mhm.
lost behind. And sometimes it's a little overkill. I feel like in my opinion, I feel the '90s was the best era of bodybuilding because you had to cook your own food. The supplementation that they had then, we don't have now. So and that's why you're seeing more athletes falling off like flies now than you did back then. All
Mhm.
kinds of things, just because if everybody wants a shortcut, and there's you take shortcuts, you get cut short, and that's what is going on in our sport right now, and it sucks. Sponsors are pushing guys to get there a lot faster than they want to get there, and there's no sprint to this game. There's no sprint at all to this game.
It's a marathon.
It's a marathon, and Sean and Dorian and Kevin and Flex and all the greats in the sport, the Lindas, the Irises, everybody will tell you there's no. I call them the old heads. Will tell you there's no sprint to this game. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes a lot of work, and it takes surrounding yourself by a team of people that you trust. That's going to give you the best advice. Not the people who are going to tell you what you need to know, to want to hear. Tell the people what you need. To find your face. Find people that tell you what you need to know, what's not what you want to hear. Because that's the problem. You go into the gym these days, and Janine probably sees it as well. And it's driving me. I got these people fucking posing. I'm a pro, and you're standing there in the mirror posing in front of me. I am 80 pounds heavier than. I'm like, what?
Or working out without a shirt on, thinking they're all there.
Working out with shirt on. You know what? Hey, you guys see my shirt right here? I just got this from the Legion show. It says, "Don't be a bitch." And so I got a new shirt because I work out in college town, and I say, "Get the fuck off your phone. Your phone is not going to get you in shape."
I
Oh,
mean,
there was a guy. Sorry, George, don't mean to
go
cut
ahead.
you off, but in relation to that, all this was so funny. There's a bodybuilder. He was frustrated with this guy. I guess it was one of the machines, and he was texting. And then he came up with his phone. He says, "How many more texts you got?"
Oh, I saw
And
that.
the
Oh,
and the guy
that's
and the guy
hilarious.
and the guy looks and said, "Excuse me," and said, "Well, I don't want to. I want to work in on this machine. How many more texts you got?" So that I could get it. So that I could get it instead of reps. It's how many texts you got. And it was like, and the guy had this confused look, but he was getting more and more intense. And finally, he got it. It looked like it took him like a minute before he finally understood what was going on there. But that was hilarious.
It was
It,
hilarious.
it's crazy how people like when my gym. I was playing fitness, and I know it's not a bodybuilding.
Ooh.
I was just there the other day training a client. It's all
See,
good.
I
so
was just there too, Janine. I was there
and
Monday training the client.
see, and the thing is that it gets a lot of bad rep, but quite a lot of bodybuilders go there because it's a reasonable cost compared to if you go to more of a traditional bodybuilding or workout gym, and people go there. Some people actually want to work out. And if you want to sit around and text, there's a little section over there. You can sit there and do
Yes.
that.
I was
do
going to
that.
take a photo of that, George, because it
Yeah.
was classic, fucking classic.
Yeah. And
Text
see,
messages in the other corridor or something it said, or something like that.
now,
On Tuesday, I'm totally taking a photo. And I'm
Yeah.
going to.
That's awesome.
yeah, and I have my phone. I'm listening to music. Like there's little things, a little song like a Rocky Balboa thing. I listen to it because, especially when I'm on the
Elliptical.
riding bike. I do the elliptical thing. I don't like doing the my knees. Yeah. But if I'm riding on the bike or I'm on the stairmaster, I like to hear something that motivates me. Every now and then I might get a phone call. It might be somebody calling my doctor or something like that. But then I'm focused on the workout. I focus on keeping focus. And I feel like this a lot of these social media influencers, like is keep talking about the guy asking people that I saw this video, this guy Kenny Kale, if you know him, he was at the Olympics
Oh
this year.
God, I hate him.
He
He drives me nuts.
Yeah, he was talking to talked to Natalie Way Wolf, and Natalie did not fall for I interviewed Natalie. She did not fall for the okie doke. She told me
Mm.
it's still about his business what I take. Great lady, been in the sport for a long time. he was talking to Amanda Machado and Lavinia Barros, and Lavinia don't speak English. Amanda, she translates because she's from Brazil. And I think also he was going to talk to a couple of ladies. I think one was Michelle Messiah, as one lady. I think it was Nikki Wicks, who just got a pro card at the Amateur Olympias. And my sister, I remember this guy. Let's just walk away from him. I mean, and I think who else he talked to? He talked to a couple here and there. And some women say, okay, yes, that's what I take. He was talking to Jessica Padilla. He said, yeah, she admitted, yeah. But other people, what they do is their personal business. And there's no reason we need to know. It's like when my dad David, Mrs. David, he was there and he was talking to the ladies, just to ask them, hey, what your thoughts are? Yeah. When I do my interviews, I ask you basically worded questions. I don't have a set list because sometimes it's fun just to have a conversation. And you get information from conversation because sometimes you ask questions, but then you get a conversation, you get more from it because they'll let you know something that you may not know. And I think as an outside, like one lady who I talked to, she tells me how she feels like bodybuilding changed because of the fans. But you can't put it on us. We come to the shows, and it's up to the judges and then the heads and all that for how things go. And that's the one thing I mentioned how there should be. I have to be Keith, Janine, you are the product. And if anything, you should try to invest more in the product. No one comes see the promoters. No one comes see the judges. We come see y'all.
I had some questions real quick for Janine in regards to the book that you're writing. What prompted you to write a book? Instead, I've known Teresa Bonsick writes articles over for Glenn Young's magazine, Amazon. She's written a couple articles. But what was it that specifically prompted you to write a book on this particular topic?
Well, I've written a few books, actually. I have a few things.
Oh, okay.
Amazon already, like a training book. I'm on my second volume for my training, almost on my third. It's old school training. I wrote a protein shake book. I wrote books about affirmations and gratitude and stuff like that. But this one, it just felt like I needed to do it. It's like I was called to do it. It's just like nobody wanted to talk about it. And if people aren't going to talk about it like how we're talking about it right now, I figured maybe I'll do it as a course. So then I tried to do it as like a seminar here in Tampa, but it didn't fly. Everyone thinks they know everything, so they didn't want to come. Right? It's like, oh yeah, I know what happens. I know how to get back on. Meanwhile, I see him in the gym like crying in the corner. It's just like whatever. Just let it go. So I thought, I'm sitting with all my information. I might as well just put it kind of in a book format and see what happens. So I've been putting all my pieces together, and I'm hoping to have that out like really soon. Because I changed the name of it a few times. I called it The Competition Hangover, but then that's geared towards alcohol. And I was like, the highs and lows of bodybuilding is really what I call it.
That's the title of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Now is it going to be paper published or ebook or both?
Yeah, I'm going to have it both. So I'll have it on Amazon, so print copy, and also like Kindle.
Okay.
I don't really want to do the reading part because my voice is really tiny, and it might irritate somebody.
Okay. But I think that's wonderful that somebody, especially like yourself, with this information, you're aware of this. I mean, you're aware of this phenomenon. You dealt with it yourself, and that you're actually codifying this in book form. Now, did you go strictly off of your own experiences with it, or did you do research by consulting other people who were going through the same thing, or was it a combination of both?
I would say it's more of a combination of both, because I've been in the industry for so long, hearing clients come back with things, my own experience, other friends that have gone through stuff that I've read and kind of took a little bit of it, you know what I mean? And go, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense, but I could go deeper into that. You know what I mean? So it like kind of touched the iceberg. And then I was like, there's more to it than that, So then I sat down and went deeper into it. So sometimes you'll find something and go, and then go, yeah, that's part of what's going on, but they're not explaining it into detail so that people aren't really understanding it. And I think that's probably why a lot of people don't, one, want to talk about it, but two, some people are afraid to talk about it or ashamed that they're going through that. Well, shit, trauma is trauma, right? So if You know, it took people a long time to talk about trauma, life issues that they've gone through, right? So it's the same kind of thing, but in the bodybuilding realm, but it can also be used for anything. It's not just bodybuilding when you think about it. So say a marathon runner is running, right? They're still going to go through the highs and lows because they hit that gold, they hit that top mark, and now they're coming down because they don't know how. Same kind of emotions and feelings are going to happen, right? The endorphins and everything is going to happen, but it's in a different sport or it's in a different part of life, right? So it's kind of a book that's designed, yes, for bodybuilding, the highs and lows of bodybuilding, but I think anybody that is going through something that they've worked so hard to get to, and then after it's done, you kind of go, I don't know where do I go next, right? So it's kind of going to teach people, you know, you can pick parts of it that would work for you depending on what part of your life you're in, going through that.
Well, let me know when that finally gets published because I very much believe in this too. It just when I say it, it's just my frustration that many people this is happening to people and they don't know what it is. So I mean, please let me know because then I can get give you some advertising for it because I think this is information that needs to get out there
Yeah.
in the body, especially among newer and younger competitors. Let's see. There are a couple other things that I wanted to talk about, but does anybody have any final thoughts on the subject of post-show blues?
No, I just think she said it right on. You know, it's like a drilling. Like, you know, what are you going to do next? You know, what's next? You know, it's like a drill. What am I going to do next? You know, and so, you know, I mean, and she's right, and George is right. It's a psychologist. When I was in high school, I lost one track meet in my whole entire career in track and field, but I went through this mental phase where I had to go see a sports psychologist because every time I got on track, and I remember at the state finals, I threw up in front of my lane on national TV because it was one of those things where I was like, what if I lose? What if I lose? So they had me go in the middle of this field with this like a bucket of lemon water, put it over my face, and have me listen to this relaxation music to calm my nerves down because I was like, it was a fear of losing.
He'll be back in a minute.
It's that Obama internet.
Where's Rodney Hamilton?
It was the fear of losing, you know. So I went through that phase and we figured it out, and you know, it helped me a lot through my rest of my professional career or my athletic career.
Okay.
Like you're saying, reading is fundamental.
Absolutely. There was one other subject we got into discussing this, Keith, before you showed up backstage in the studio, and it's concerning what's happening this weekend in women's physique in the Clash show. And here we've got the competitor list, which they posted, and it's that name right up there at the top. Natalia Abraham Coelho is seeing fit to start competing again with regular pro shows, and if anybody has followed this woman, when she gets started, she's like a force of nature. She can't be stopped. Like when I double checked within the past, it's like here, she's like, what was it? From 2020, most of it 2022 to 2023, this woman went on a tear. IFB Pittsburgh Pro, first place. New York Pro, first place. Muscle Conscious Brazil Pro, first place. Then she wins her title at the Olympia. Then Pittsburgh Pro wins again. New York Pro wins again. Competes at the Mr. Olympia. Competes that year in 2023, gets second. Atlantic Coast Pro, first place. Then she finally takes a break from competing. But it's just when this woman gets started, she can't be stopped. A female bodybuilding channel posted a really interesting post about that because this has caused quite a bit of debate among fans and competitors alike, is that because thanks to them removing the point system, every single one of these pro wins was another pro competitor that was removed from the Olympia field, because qualification, you have to win the pro show. And so that was the question they asked over there is, should she be allowed to compete as a pro? Should she not? Should she withhold competing as a pro so that other people can do so for this reason? And that's caused lively debate in the female muscle community. So I know, George, if you could reiterate, and Janine could reiterate what you were saying, and then Keith, I'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Well, you know, she's been on my live stream a couple of times. I'm not a big fan of Natalia. She's impressive physique, I would say that. I feel like this. When you come into a show, and some ladies actually reached out to me saying, this one lady told me, we talked about this before, how she comes in and do these shows. This clash. This is the first year they're going to have women's physique. I would understand maybe most definitely a show like New York or Pittsburgh or hell, even the Arizona Pro. She's done that before. I don't think she won that show, but she's done it before. Those are, I would say, big level shows. But then this show is a new show, and it's not that big of a show. It only has women's physique division, and also they're doing, it's a master show too because you have 40 plus and 50 plus, and 40 plus is qualify you for the Olympia. So you come in here, you have somebody like one person's on the list is Amandi Koli Amandi, and she competed with Natalia at Pittsburgh, and then you remember Emily Sherbert that year when Natalia won the Olympia. Emily did both Pittsburgh and New York, and I even said to somebody, Emily should just skipped it because she got a qualification in Omaha. Why did she just skip it? She wanted to compete. I understand you want to compete. You want to see you test your medal against a top level competitor like Natalia. But when you do a show after that and take second again, you're just wasting your time and your money.
Especially if they're no points, right? Like if it's points, it's a little bit different. When we had the points, it was a bit more fair. But let's be realistic. Do you know any other Olympians that go out and compete to the other show? No, they don't want to. Their focus is on the fucking Olympia. Their focus should be on nothing but the Olympia. If you're one of those top athletes, that should be your focus, not all the other shows.
Okay.
For an example, when I was even an amateur and I had qualifications for nationals for life because I won my province, right? My only show was national to turn pro. That was my big show. That's where I put all my energy. I didn't do a warm-up show. I focused on one thing. All the top Olympians never, did Phil Heath go out and do another show? You know what I'm saying? Did Dexter, when Dexter was competing, did he? No, he stayed where he was, right? And same with Iris. Iris never did anything except for the international on that because those were her top shows. Andrea Shaw stays in bodybuilding, stays in the Olympia ring, right? If she had to requalify, yeah, I would see her come down. But they're taking spots. She's taking spots away from others, and you're losing the steam. The athletes go like this: "Fuck it, why bother showing up now? I have trained my ass off to be at this show, and now she shows up." You see what I mean? Like the tension is there. The tension is there. She doesn't need to qualify to the Olympia. She's already qualified, and you're an Olympian, so that means you're always qualified because you already have that win. Am I not wrong, Keith? Is that right, Keith? Once you've won an Olympia, you always have qualification.
Oh yeah.
So then
Juliet Bergman came back and competed in 2000. Sorry, go ahead.
Taking money and taking positions from other athletes. I find that very greedy. There's a bikini girl that does the exact same thing. What do you like? You're trying to get all these other titles. Like it's heartbreaking for the athletes. It really is. You work your ass off to get there, and then all of a sudden she shows up. She shouldn't be winning just because she's an Olympian. There could be somebody better on that stage that day. She shouldn't be winning because of her name. You know what I'm saying?
Chase, what do you think?
You're mute, brother.
You're on mute, brother.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. And it's this simple.
I am too, but go ahead.
Dexter's done it. I've been to Tampa Pro. Janine, you were there as well. Yep. Dexter rolled his ass in there. He rolled his ass in the New York Pro. And the reason why Dexter was doing it because he wanted the 51 wins and made him the most winningest bodybuilder in history. Samson Dua has done it, being a top 3 guy the last few years, and now he's a champion because his logic was the people in my country doesn't get to see me compete. So he went to Romania, I think last year, he was third. He went to the Czech Republic show. He did the France show right before the Olympia this year. I think he weighed in 305 and won that show. But he's like, I am giving the fans what they want. And here's the thing. If you talk to Flex, you talk to Sean, you talk to Kevin, you talk to all those guys back in the 90s right after Olympia would just go on the circuit and do a bunch of shows. And he goes, our athletes these days are fucking pussies. They're lazy. They should be doing more shows to give the fans, because you guys are fans, give the fans who don't get the opportunity to go to the Olympia because the shit's expensive to see them, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, here's another perspective. I don't know this girl, but no offense and all, women ain't getting paid what they should be getting paid. So if I can get collect checks, I can collect checks. Now, who is this on really? It's on the IFBB to sit here and says, okay, if it's like when they changed national rules, I can say this, and I'm a primely living example of this. I was 3-time runner-up at USA's Nationals till I turned pro. 4th time I turned pro. The year I turned pro, they changed the rule that first and second place at Nationals will get a pro card. So Dave Palumbo calls me and says, well, how do you feel about that? I go, are you fucking shitting me right now? What kind of question is that? I would have been a pro 3 years ago if they would have had this rule. So the question, the answer to this question is they need to implicate, okay, the person who comes in second, because obviously she's qualified, should have that spot going to the Olympia because it's not always going to be the same girl. So they can fix this problem, but they're not choosing not to fix this problem because if you sit here and say, okay, you can do these shows because to give the fans what they want, but the girl who comes in second is going to get that Olympia qualification because you're already qualified, that solves the fucking problem. But they're not doing that. That's the problem. They're not doing that. You know, so I understand what everybody's saying, but come on, let's just be honest. Those checks that, you know, Janine and Tina, especially if, you know, like the show they were in, top 3 get checks, 4, 5, 6 don't get no check. You know, so, you know, maybe she's chasing the paper. You know, I mean, I don't know what her expenditures are. We don't know what her expenditures are. But the way you resolve that problem in essence is saying, okay, go ahead and do these shows. But the girl who places second is going to get that Olympia qualifying spot. Because not the same girl is going to do the same shows. You know what I'm saying? So that makes sense. And Samson Duwa just said, and if you ask Flex and Sean and Kevin and all these guys who went on tour, who did all these shows at the Olympia, they said our era of bodybuilding, we're soft as fuck. Because we especially the, you know, not I wouldn't say the Mr. Olympia, but all the other guys, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th guys were all going to circuit together. That's where Ronnie finally beat Kevin and Sean and became the 8-time Mr. Olympia because they were all on circuits. And what did Ronnie say? I wasn't bitching when I came in 15, 13, 12, 9, 10th, 11. And then finally he beat him after years and years. But guess what? All those guys were on the same circuit together after the Olympia. So we forget about that. And we forget about the essence of these girls are not making much money, not even in women's physique. Women's bodybuilding and women's physique are making the same amount of money, which is not very much money to cover their expenditures. Shit. So in order to fix this problem, basically you say, okay, Natalia, you want to do this show? Cool. But that Olympia qualification is going to go to that 2nd place girl in every show you go in. And I think that will fix the problem. That's just me. But that makes too much sense, though.
Well, what they do, they want to cut down the numbers because, you know, the reason why they got with the points is because the numbers thing. But here's the thing, I point like this. If you look at divisions like women's physique, figure, fitness, I think with fitness and women's bodybuilding, they have the least amount of shows. I think this year's was the most, with at least about 15, 14. And then, you know, you look at physique, it has maybe about 4 or 5 more shows. There's already, counting the Clash, then the Romanian Muscle Fest, there's the Joe Weider Natural Show, and you just had Legions and Daytona, you know, those before the Olympia. You have at least 3 or 4 more shows after that. And then if you do like this, Wheelchair has low numbers. They still have the point system. So if anybody needs a point system, it will be divisions like women's bodybuilding and most definitely fitness, because those are the 2 older divisions.
And 212.
212, you know, 212, they low too.
They don't have a lot of shows either, honestly.
No.
212 has very minimal shows. Fitness has hardly any shows. So it's bodybuilding, 212, women's bodybuilding, I should say, 212, fitness,
and wheelchair. Mm-hmm. So those are the ones that really deserve the point system the most.
Yeah.
I had a devil's advocate question for Janine.
Uh-oh.
Now maybe it isn't, because I'm just going off of an assumption right now. But if you can clarify it. With the Rising Phoenix, is that an Olympia qualifier? It is. George, is that Olympia qualifier? Is that an Olympia spot? Okay,
Yes, it
but
is.
then here's the devil's advocate. Based on your own argument, shouldn't Andrea Shaw have stepped aside? Shouldn't she not have competed? Because she's already qualified 4 times over, but she's there.
Here-
And the
So
thing with that show is there's more money in that show.
Yeah,
So people up to the top 10, isn't it the top 10? It's been a while.
top 5.
Like the top 5 get money, but then there's other prizes. There was the best video, best poser, all that kind of stuff. So there was different prize money to keep the women still going, right? So if you didn't win the show, you sometimes came home with something.
Yeah, Janine's won. Janine's won. Been in the top 3 for best video. Been in top 3 for best poser. So there's money to be won. When you say that, because I've been there when she's won them, and when in those certain classes, when you say that though, it's like one of those things. Well, it's the world championships. It's not like I understand if it's like a regular show, but it's like the Arnold. It's the world championships. Like Hade Koopa. He's decided to not do the Arnold Classic this year because he is focusing on trying to win that Olympia title back. That's a personal decision for some people. Kai Green could always beat Phil at the Arnold, but never could beat Phil at the Olympia. So again, that's a personal decision. When it comes to Andrea Shaw, now she's not the champion, so she has every right to go back there and try, because no offense and all, the way Angela Yo was speaking, and I love me and Tina love Angela Yo, but if you take my world championship title away from me and the things that you said, I'm trying to go back and get it. Plus, that's 50 racks. It's not chump change. That's 50 racks. So and here's the thing we got to look at it too, the monetary value of this thing. If Andrea Shaw wins the Olympia, I think it's 50,000. She wins the world championship, it's 50,000. That's $100,000 right there. You got to look at Samson Dua, who just won almost like $1 million, almost $2 million or something like that, because I forgot what the money's going up to. So
Yeah.
it's like you can't even compare the two. So these girls have to do more shows, which again, I know my wife's in the sport, but it's just not fair that they got to do more shows to try to make the money that a male Olympia would make in just winning the Olympia. They would have to do like 10, 15 or so shows to make even remotely close to that money. Because I'm looking at the checks that they hand on these girls at the show, and I'm like, again, George and Melanie were talking about it earlier, and we've talked about it earlier, and Janine knows this with the suits and the makeup and the tan and the travel and the hotel and the food and the supplementation and all this other stuff. You're breaking even, So when they say that about Natalia, this girl who's doing all these shows, she's looking at her expenditures, and we all know this is the poor man's sport. So more power to her. But again, the way you fix that problem is
right.
It's just like when you go to Master Nationals, you don't get 2 pro cards, you get 1. You decide which one you want to take a pro card in. Or Nash, you decide the one they're not going to give you 2 pro cards. So you make a decision.
They never gave me 2 pro cards when I won both.
Did they really?
Yeah.
They didn't. They took my
Yeah.
open and gave it to somebody else.
Exactly, because
Right there on the spot. But then all of a sudden they gave everybody else 2. It's just
and you know why? Because they got your money out of both classes of you, the $300 something, and so they got that money. So they go, okay, Janine, you won it in women's masters bodybuilding, you won it women's open bodybuilding. You make the decision and where you want to take your pro card in, and then we'll go from there. Right?
Yeah, I didn't even get that decision. They just did it for me.
I interviewed the
They
lady
did it for me, and they raised hell.
I just interviewed a lady a couple weeks ago, Stephanie Herrera. She just got a pro card. She had got 3 pro cards at North Americans. 2 of them were both in Win Physique. I think she was in 2 different classes of Win Physique, and another in figure. Now, I saw this because I saw that. I said, what? We try this woman because what does she have to do? Because usually, if you win they give you in one class, and if you give you another division, that's kind of what's the point of giving that many pro cards out to one person?
Yeah.
And she's doing like 2 divisions and winning in 2 different classes in one division.
I've got my own 2 cents worth on this. Is that
money?
I think that I think the anger against Natalia is misplaced.
Yes.
And the reason being is because people are blaming her.
No.
All Natalia is doing is taking advantage of a situation that the IFBB Pro League created for her.
Yeah.
And that is by that and
Hello.
that's by eliminating the point system.
Hello.
And so it's like, and the thing is, she's got, and then that's, as I've said this before, I see this as strategic on her part. She knows that every one of these wins is another potential chess piece taken off the Olympia board. The smaller the field, the better chance you have of winning, particularly if you're a top level competitor like she is. I mean, if you know that situation is there for you to take advantage of, who's not going to do it? I mean, that's the way I see it, is that she's doing this strategically. The solution is just like what you were saying, Keith, is that what they need to do is, if they're going to keep it like this and they're not going to reinstitute the point system for individual divisions, which I don't think they're going to do, is I think they need to use the bump system for the Olympic qualifications. Is that if you've already got it,
Because they
if
had
you
that.
already, if you, so here's how it would work: is that yeah, she should compete. Yeah, she can compete, and if she turns out to be the best, have the best physique in that field, give her the oversized check, give her the tiara, give her the win, give her all that, but give the Olympia burst to the next person in line. That way, she's able to compete as a
And they
professional,
announced that
and then
shit.
she can get all those checks if she wants to get them. If she's able to get them, this is professional bodybuilding.
And
So I mean, that's part of the thing, is you can get the money,
And they
and
announced
then
it. And they
then
announced
and
it. Well, we know
right,
you qualified for the Olympia, Natalia. So we already know that, such and such. So they acknowledge that she, the girl who placed second, is now going to the Olympia. So
right.
that,
The
they,
exact same
yeah.
situation is with multiple pro cards,
Yep.
like we were talking about there. I don't believe in those either. But again, they've created the situation. The NPCs created the situation by which someone can win 2, 3 pro cards. So again, what woman's not going to take advantage of that? If you're able to potentially win a pro card in 3 separate divisions, you've increased your probability of becoming an IFBB pro 3 times. So who's not
Exactly.
going? So who's not going to do that? But
Exactly.
I see approach it exactly the same way that I approach Olympia qualification. You've already got your pro card in one division. That's great. You don't get it in 2 more.
Yeah.
It goes to number 2, because if the same people keep winning multiple pro cards, because they have to make up their mind what kind of a pro they become once they get into the pro ranks. So it's like, you've earned 3, yeah, but you're throwing 2 away. IFBB pro cards that you're throwing away because you only need the 1. So that's why they need to go. That's why they need to keep the same thing. Said, okay, you already won your pro card. Now, since you already got your pro card, number 2 in these other 2 divisions get it. And but I think this anger that comes from the fan base is misplaced. Don't be upset at the player for doing nothing more and nothing less than playing a game according to the rules that the game's creators made. And in
Well,
this case, it's the federations.
well,
That's my 2
sometimes
cents worth.
somebody has to be the villain. And then when you become a villain, you can't always be a lover. You got to be a hater. And every now and then, she made herself a target. She can
Well, here's
create
a prime
anarchy and
example, Jeremy.
chaos.
Here's a prime example, Jeremy. When I lived in Minnesota, I was getting ready for nationals, and I wanted to practice. So I went and entered, not knowing the NPC rules. I wanted to practice, because I was runner up, of course, twice already or 3 times. I can't even remember. And so here was the stipulation. I couldn't enter the open class, but I could enter the master's class at 35. So I was able to enter and people fucking hated me for it. And I was like, I don't give a shit about the trophy. They didn't want to make me the guest poser. So all I wanted to do was practice. So I ended up winning the master class, and everybody's like, and I got heat for it. Oh, you go on the mat, you're a national level competitor. I said, look, Chris Bongiovanni didn't want me to make me the guest poser, so I went into the show just for practice. I'll give the trophy to the guy who came in second because I don't give a shit about that because the bigger prize is down the road. But there are certain so that stipulation should still, if they're gonna do it in NPC, they can do it in the IFBB. That's what I'm saying. If you're gonna be able to sit here and say, okay, you can do this show, but understanding that Olympia qualification is not going to you, and she knows that, and she knows she can get the paper, but not get an Olympia qualification, then maybe her thought process would be different than, hey, I'm eliminating the competition by doing this. So maybe I'll do less shows if they put it to her that way. But again, That's all in the powers to be, the Mannions, in the Bergs, and the Sandy Williamsons to be. We can't do nothing about that. So
I think it's time for a reface. You know what I mean?
yep.
Rules have to sit down, the judges have to sit down and all be on the same page, because we're having too much lat spreads coming in figure, even lat spreads coming in bikini. Like, come on.
You guys had to do the most muscular at your show.
I know that was funny as hell. But,
Then it's like you see the side chest pose. I've watched now some new former amateurs or new pros. They're doing bodybuilding side chest shots in physique, and vice versa. And it's like wrong pose.
Yeah.
It's like wrong pose, guys.
I think one time I was watching a competitor, she looked pretty good, but then what was that she was kind of slipping and she was doing physique poses in women's bodybuilding. I forgot who it was. She could have placed
Gracie.
better.
Heather Gracie.
Yeah, that was it. That was at the that was in 2021 when they had the Puerto Rico Pro in the Bahamas.
Heather Gracie. Yep.
Yeah, Heather Gracie. And
I remember that.
Yeah, because you know what? She could have done better if she. Come on, you've been competing in sport for a long time. You should know these poses. Sometimes
she's my ex-girlfriend. I told her she shouldn't do that.
She
was like, I told her there's no way. She did it anyway.
Yeah, it don't make sense. But like I said, I can understand. So again, I understand why she wants to compete, because sometimes, but she has sponsors that pay her, and then one person saw this.
She thought that going into bodybuilding was easier than competing in figure at the time, women's physique at the time.
Yeah,
I remember that. It was not a good scene.
Yeah,
no.
I know some people would tell me like, "Why did you say this about other people?" Well, I have, like, especially Jessica Ray Padilla. She's gonna be in the future probably the next Miss Olympia figure champion. She just did the Olympia. There was 2 weeks ago. She was in the Hurricane Pro. Then she's doing shows here and there. There's another girl, Lena Rumsteiner. She did 2 shows overseas, won a qualification overseas, come over here and win shows in the States. Zama Benta. I maybe not go as hard as Zama because I'm a fan of her. I like her physique. My man David interviewed her a while back. She's a pretty cool lady. But
they're thinking this too. Your body gets tired doing show after show after show.
And this is what happened to Anna Horace. Because Anna did the Atlanta, got a qualification. Did Chicago. Then she turned around and does the Texas Pro, and she got 8th at that show.
Hello, your body's tired. Okay.
Because I know I follow social media. One point she had a started eye. I think we had an interview, and then a family emergency come up. I don't know, something with her or just somewhere family. And I think okay, you do pretty good. You stick to momentum, but then after a while, stop. Like with Sherry Piami, reason why she did Chicago because she didn't win at Portugal, and when you like with the thing with the Rise of Phoenix, it's an invitational show, and I've said this that they should make this more open because you got to think about it. If people like Andrea, Angela, Ashley, yeah.
You know why? Because that show is exactly how the Arnold's was. The Arnold's wasn't invitational. So they're not going to change that rule no matter what y'all say.
Yeah, I know.
It's always going to be, you have to write a letter of intent. You have to do everything they want. And then it's in front of a panel. That's how the Arnold's is too, even for the men.
Yeah, we got to write a letter to get in.
Right.
And find out literally Christmas fucking Eve if you're allowed to eat that fucking pie or for the honestly, it's usually holiday.
That's how it was for the women.
Yeah.
That's the Miss International. It's exactly the same way. You had to submit your letter and get invited. It's no different.
Yeah, because I remember one year I entered the Arnold and like the list came out and then Hida Tada dropped out and they're like, "Well, do you want to do it?" And I'm like, Janine said, "I was already eating that fucking pie. I already moved on to the next show." So.
You did that poop pie.
I ate that whole pie in one sitting because and that's something I would do. It's like
I'm gonna do my rock person. Keith, Janine, you like pie?
Well, it depends on the pie. I just invited Thanksgiving down
See, from around here, we in the South, where I'm from, we like sweet potato pie. Or that's our thing. Apple's pretty good. Pumpkin, that's not really pie. I don't know how people make that. I can't.
Pecan, raspberry, apple.
Yeah, I
One of
remember
the
my
guys
mom.
at the gym makes me a key lime pie that he makes from his trees, and he makes the
Ooh, that
crust
sounds
and
good.
everything, like
Wow.
graham cracker
What?
crust. Yeah, I can't. I have
What?
to get my order in.
What I used to remember my mom used to make was a sweet potato bread. It was like kind of like a bread. She took the flour and just put it in the pan, and it's like you cut up in slices. It was great. I miss it. I miss my mother, and also the cakes. Like Christmas, there's nothing wrong for Christmas and Thanksgiving. You get the cakes. Like my mom cooked jelly. She'll cook white icing with coconut. She'll cook the chocolate cake. I
That's
know
what
you
my
guys
belly
are
does.
talking about food, right? You
His
bodybuilders, but
mama sends me a whole plate home all the time because I'm by myself for the holidays. So his
that's
belly does
nice. That's
one at all
nice.
holiday.
Well,
Going, I like this. No, I don't like this.
Mhm.
for me around Thanksgiving, it's always been Dutch apple pie.
Well,
Yeah,
Always.
that's good.
I
Oh my
came home
God, it's
from a
that
bowling
good.
tournament this weekend, and my mother-in-law said, "I made you a cherry cheesecake," and I was like, "Oh, you're the best
I'm not
mother-in-law."
much for cheesecake. I
And,
mean, like,
and
Gotta
then,
do the
so I
right.
asked her, I said, because her dad, because Keena loves banana cream pie, so her dad made. I said, "Were you guys just having a cooking contest to see who's the best pie maker?" But I ain't mad. Keep doing those contests because I keep getting full.
yeah,
There you go.
what conversation with y'all bodybuilders. Y'all are really foodies, even though some that have issues with food in the past, y'all really foodies because you love food. It's part of the process. But depending on
Well,
what you eat, that helps you gain and grow. And
Well,
you
well,
like
know,
watch. Not
Dusty
all of us
Hinshaw
love
said it.
food. We
mhm,
eat for fuel, sometimes not for taste, because we know what the food is going to do for us in the gym. So we're eating for fuel more than taste when it comes
yeah,
to.
like in
So
the military, I know people say eat now, taste later.
yeah,
Yeah,
Well, my funny story. Dusty Hinshaw and me did nationals in Miami one year, and it was supposed to be first and second. It was this big thing on social media, and
yeah.
so I stopped at Publix because but Dusty said I had to get my TV out of my house because he calls it food porn. So he said
Right.
he
Good
watches
old
food
Dusty.
porn
Right.
all the time, and he had these things with Pop Tarts. He's always talking about Pop Tarts. So I went and got the biggest box of Pop Tarts, and it was an awesome moment because all these cameras. So I walked up to him and I said, I know it's supposed to be a battle between us this weekend, but win or lose, I want to give you these. And I gave him this big ass box of Pop Tarts. I can say you can start carving up right now if you want.
that's a
There
lot.
was. I'm trying to remember. There was. Oh, who was it? There was a girl. She apparently she thought she was like the competition was over. It's a Friday night. I'm trying to remember what the show was. She thought the show was over, and it's like someone came up to her and she had eaten half of this big ass cheesecake, and she was like chowing down. But then it was like somebody came up to her and said, "Don't you have a photo shoot on Sunday?" And it all of a sudden it's like she stopped for a moment and her eyes went wide. It's like,
Hey, Janine, I have a
oh
question for
shit! It's
you.
like, oh shit! That's right. It's
Yeah,
like, but
because
she's already done the deed because half of this thing is gone.
Hey, Janine, I
well,
have a question for
So
you. Is it true that Andrea Shaw was eating an apple pie
Yep,
one time behind stage at World Championships?
yep.
oh,
She did that at the Olympia. She did that. Rising Phoenix. Yeah, she eats almost a whole pie.
Because
is that
yeah,
how?
I asked
she
It's an,
said,
Alina,
yeah,
it's an
she
apple
says
pie.
that.
Her
She
I
says
mom.
that.
asked Alina,
Jeez.
She
I
loves
asked
apple
Alina, and
pie.
Alina's like, she does. I said, bullshit. Tina was back there and
She
said
totally
she was
does.
sitting there eating an apple pie.
That's
Yeah,
how
I
she
mean,
carves up. That's how
Yeah,
she
yeah,
carves
yeah,
up for a show. Okay,
yeah.
she
what
also
a way
does
to carve.
like I remember
But it's like her birthday's always around the shows, I think.
yeah, because
Oh,
remember the
okay.
year when it was
Fire.
when the Olympia was in December, she that day I think her birthday was maybe a couple of days before it ended, and she posted on her social media she was eating pie.
Yeah.
And and she loves
Hmm.
that. That's why I'm a fan of
I remember
Andre.
Margie was eating a piece of it one year too.
Yeah, that's why I'm a fan of Andre. I'm just
I
yeah.
was gonna say that's part of the reason right there is because you like it because you both like apple pie.
I'm not much of an apple pie.
Okay,
I'm
all
not much
right.
for it. I mean,
He's a
like I said, where I grew up, we
pie.
didn't have it that often. Cause like I said, peach. Like I like peach cobbler, but I don't like peaches. That's the funny thing about it.
What?
What
That
the
doesn't even
hell?
make any. That
How does
doesn't
that
even
make
make any
sense?
sense.
That doesn't even
That
make
doesn't make
sense.
any sense,
It's
That
George.
makes
true. I
no sense
mean,
whatsoever.
I just don't read. I don't know. I remember I was talking to Marika Jones, and she said we said the same thing, but she likes her peaches cobbler cold. I like my peach cobbler hot. Like I
Okay.
can honestly say like this. My mom we used to have a peach tree when we lived out the country, and she said she canned them, and they're pretty good. But when you get them in there, you put them hot, put that crust on top of them, you
Okay.
season on. They just take. I just like I said. Actually, I remember I got it from this guy, and I said, you know what? That's true. when he said it. It was on Living Color. The guy says, "I like peach cobbler, but don't like peaches." I said, "Yeah, that's true. I don't like peach cobbler. I like peach cobbler, but I don't like peaches." I mean, that's kind of strange.
That's kind of weird. I like peaches, but I don't like peach cobbler. So.
I like apple, but I don't like apple pie. What?
Right. I like chocolate, but I don't like cocoa beans.
I like
It's
fresh
like-
cherries, and I don't like any fake cherries or fake
You,
flavors.
you don't see the door on you not open, George?
Yeah, I like the swirls, but I like kinds with the apples and stuff. I hate the plain kinds.
Okay. I got one more topic to talk about, and this is something that George and Keith and I discussed over on George's page, and that was Missy Truscott and how she's got such an amazing physique that if she wanted to, that she could probably transition from figure or fitness to figure without any much difficulty.
Or physique.
Well, Missy teased this picture on her IG, which says 3-time Fitness Olympia 2025, we usher in a new era, LFG 2025, and notice her fingers are covering up the F for Miss F Olympia. And so she's been teasing that with other people. This may be is this her announcing that she's in fact going to make that move? And she said, I'll let people think about it. So it's like, it's like maybe she's going to do what we believe she could do without much difficulty. And we were comparing. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens. But I mean, with Missy teasing this idea, if she does in fact make the jump, I mean, she's been an Olympian for so long. Would it be that much of a deal for her to go get into the figure Olympia as opposed to the fitness Olympia, and then take on the likes of Jessica Reyes Padilla for one of the top spots? Or do you think that she wouldn't be able to?
I don't know how that would work. Like, okay, so yes, you're a fitness Olympian. You always have an invite for the fitness. Does it go for any division? I don't know.
Yeah,
because I think
guess what? Guess what's going on? Chris Bumstead.
That's true. You're right.
Chris Bumstead's about to go into Opens bodybuilding in Romania.
I saw that. I thought that was retarded. But
and also, Shanique Grant, she's been planning on moving over to wellness because I thought she was going to make her debut this year.
I thought they had to requalify because it's a new division. I thought they had to qualify. You know what I mean?
That's a good question. That's
true. I'm not sure about that.
I think they have to qualify. I mean,
well, no, they don't, because I remember Flex Wheeler had got a special invite when they brought out men's physique, and he went into classic physique. He went into classic physique with a special invitation, and he was men's open bodybuilding. So I think. It depends. I want to say it depends who the person is. But I remember the last Olympia he did a comeback, and then he started having all those health issues where he didn't do open men's bodybuilding, but he did classic physique, and then he started having all those health issues. But
that was Flex, wasn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think they were trying to promote it. I think that's what that was about. I think that's where the special invite was. They were trying to bring him back, right? Into that era, because his physique back then was really the classic.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I think that's where that came from, because I remember that. So I think it was something to promote that division.
Well, I think that she jumped in any show. I mean, it wouldn't take her hard as long.
No, I don't think it would, but I don't know. Like, I mean, that is something that we need to kind of find out. Like, does the rules change if an athlete's wanting to jump from a different division and the Olympia stage?
Yeah, that's true.
Question. And also, I know there have been a couple of fitness competitors who had got injured. Jody Bone, she was injured, and she was doing women's physique. And then I know she got a Olympic qualification that one year.
Mindy O'Brien is the same.
Also,
the ladders, though, right?
Yeah, and then Mina, what's the face? She also did women's physique, but she didn't get Olympic qualified. I know Jody did. She did. I think the year before she went back to fitness was the year where she did figure one more time. Then she went back to fitness. And now this year, she's pregnant. She's not competing this year. She's taking, second time off.
I saw that, actually. I saw her flipping.
Yeah. And, you saw Oksana Graceria. I think she probably about to have a baby in a couple of weeks. So even she's been multiple time fitness
And that little
champion.
boy, yeah.
Yeah, she's been multi fitness champion, so that opens the gate for her. She want to come back. So that might be Missy's concern. If Oksana comes back, would she be a threat to her in the title? And
But
now
that makes good competition, though.
yeah, and now with Cindy gone, would they feel like she might want to dip her toes in another division? Because from one point, I think she could do physique. From
Yeah.
what I mean, she's kind of big, even for fitness level. You look at people like Erica Deer, you look at Tamara Vaughn, you look at Jackie Baker, you look at all these other girls. I remember we were talking before where you had a girl who was at Titans and she was doing she was supposed to do fitness.
She was supposed to do fitness, but she tore ACL. I
Uh-huh.
forget her name. She was a really nice girl, and then she jumped into bodybuilding because she was already dieted down. But
Mhm.
that's allowed. That's allowed. You're allowed to switch down. On the other, the qualifications, right? Like trying to get qualified, you can do that. You can't cross back and forth in the same show like an NPC athlete. But I don't know how that works on the Olympia stage. If you're already an Olympian can you go in any other division? Like, I mean, honestly, I have no clue. I think you had to requalify because the only other person I know that went from division and qualified at the Olympia was Mindy O'Brien from Canada. She went into the Olympia in bikini, figure, fitness, and physique.
And you
But
got to think also
each time, right?
Ashley Jones another because Ashley, even though she's never been a qualified Olympian champion, she never got her qualification as a figure competitor for the Olympia, but she has twice got a qualification for women's physique, and now this year she has a qualification for women's bodybuilding.
I remember that with Mindy O'Brien. I saw their injury when that happened, and it was like I think it was a Miss International, but it's like she did the splits,
She broke her back.
but then she froze.
Her back.
For 60 seconds, she was frozen, and it's like what's going on? And then she slowly got up and then walked backstage. And I was like, damn, something really bad happened. I think that was the last time she ever did fitness. And then because of injury, she made the transition. I'm wondering after this last horrific accident that Missy had, that may be the reason. Maybe I'm misreading that. Maybe that picture was just an honest mistake, but I've seen other people ask the same question, and they're asking, okay, is that like Missy teasing this idea, or is that just her hand just happened to be there? Who knows? So, but it'll be interesting to see what happens as a result of that.
Hey, she got us talking about it.
Right, she did. So, and I don't think it's just us. Didn't Female Bodybuilding Channel post something about that in their story? Yeah. And they asked the same question. So, let's see. Well, to wrap this up, I'll just go ahead and ask something fairly lighthearted. We just had Halloween yesterday. My tradition is always to watch some scary movie. That's always a classic. So I'll just go ahead and throw that there. What's your favorite scary movie? What's the scariest movie you ever saw?
I never liked scary movies that much. Now I can watch like some like Aliens or something like that. That might be it, but never really like. I might watch somebody like I watch Spenguli comes on the weekends.
I loved Svengoolie.
Yeah,
I loved Svengoolie.
Yeah, it'll show the old classics, and I watch those. Other than that, I remember one time when I was little, my brothers and sisters they went to the video store, and they got I think one of the Friday 13th. I forgot which one. And then I was taking a nap in the next room, and they would come in the room and say, "We're gonna watch Friday 13th." I woke up and I ran out.
For people who don't know who Svengoolie is, he's this legendary late night host who hosts some of the hokiest, cheesiest monster and horror movies ever made, basically. And he has this hilarious recording over while the thing is going on with sound effects and such. But I love Svengoolie. I grew up watching Svengoolie.
Anytime I just started watching because I don't watch when I came. I watch satellite. He comes on MeTV. And one thing he loves to do is anytime he talks about certain actors in the movie, says whatever exactly say, and they did Perry Mason.
Keith, what's your favorite scary movie?
Yeah, man. I just watched one the other day with I don't even know the name of it. It's with the black couple who goes on the trip and everybody stops talking and then they become a duplicate family of them.
Oh, Get Out.
Yes.
Get Out, I think is what it was called.
That movie freaked me out. I'm like,
You know who directs that?
no,
Do you know what's his name? Key and Peele?
no,
Is that the name of the group? Yeah, one of those guys. He's now a horror
People.
director.
Yeah,
that's
Jordan,
crazy.
And a very successful horror director too. He
Yeah.
directed that.
That
Nope,
is
Nope is
crazy.
another one, which
Us,
is a really good one too.
it was Us. I think the one with the
Mhm.
Yes,
girls
us,
from Black Panther, with like the dun, 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 and when she
and the
has
people
the
are holding hands across the
Right, right.
I'm like, what the?
It's like I never would have pegged him to do him of all people to do something horror. I
Key and Peele.
never would have thought that.
I like watching Key and Peele. They're crazy, especially the one with watch over there. I say, bitch.
Janine, what's your favorite, or do you have a favorite?
I don't do horror movies.
Okay.
It's just never been my thing.
She's a
Okay.
My
girl.
mother scared me so bad when I was a kid. So
I can understand. I can understand. I can watch alien movies, but I don't know. I can
I'm scared
never.
of it. I don't like clowns.
Oh my god.
You would hate Stephen King's It.
Yeah,
The best
You would
one-
you would absolutely hate that one.
that's
the
how it all
best
happened.
one.
Yeah.
The best one is always going to be the one with Tim Curry. The
You didn't like the movie version?
Nah.
Really?
Nah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
guys,
like
well,
that
I gotta
one.
head to my bar. I'm bartending tonight, so got my beer.
Okay.
So
Get the
I'll see you
tips.
guys next Friday. You guys have a great
Yep.
weekend.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Love to
Alright.
hear your insight, Keith.
Yep, not a
All
problem.
right. Okay.
But
All right.
Well, Janine, I can't wait for the book to come out. Truly,
Thank you.
because I mean, this is a subject that's got to be told, and I'll do my very best to help advertise for it, and so that the word can get out that somebody somewhere finally wrote something about this.
Yeah.
So hopefully, it'll become like required reading for competitors, for certain coaches.
Yeah, I think it's just something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like I said, think that they're okay, I'm good, I can do this on my own, but really you can't do it on your own because that's why you're in the corner of the gym crying or struggling or eating too much food because you don't understand what the next step is. And it's an important topic. I mean, going through it as an amateur, even as a pro, everything's different. Like I had my improvement season technically hasn't totally started yet because of everything that happened coming home. So it's been prolonged a bit. I'm still training and stuff, but it's, my food is still pretty clean,
Okay.
so I've taken a little bit longer because I couldn't just jump in because then I really would have probably have a big mind fuck, hurricane food, you eat whatever you got, literally. I mean, 2 weeks without food or a week without real food, right? Everything was gone. So
Yeah,
you figure it out, but because I'm seasoned and I'm experienced, I'm able to still manipulate my diet with whatever I have to make things work until I'm able to do my 100% improvement season, get ready for 2025.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, like I said, it's tough when it's time of year when you had the hurricanes hit, you can't eat like you used because North Carolina, we get hurricanes just as bad down in Florida. Because like I said, you hitting from the coast and we get them from the Atlantic, and then it's tough because you want to eat healthy and you want to follow a diet, but then you have to eat what's non-perishable, like canned goods, and when you still have water, but then
There's no egg whites anywhere. Like I drink my egg whites. There was you go to the grocery store for 3 weeks, there's nothing.
Yeah, because that's what it always like this. When we hit snow down here, we get ice and snow, like everybody goes crazy and they buy all the milk. But you gotta think about it, that's gonna spoil you if you don't have nothing to keep it cool. That's just gonna stick it outside.
Yeah,
And,
you stick it out in the snow. That's what we used to do.
Yeah.
I would go out and stick it in the snow.
Yeah, we get snow. I live in the Midwest, so it's like we don't get hurricanes, we get tornadoes.
Yeah.
But the ones that we can get, the F5s, the really big ones with like the mile across funnel that pretty much can wipe out an entire town, blink of an eye. And that's the other thing is that it's down for 5 minutes and gone.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even know it was there, except for all of the debris and damage that it causes. But in relation to snow, it's hilarious because here in the Midwest, snow is just a normal part of the deal. So it's like we know what to do. Okay, the salt trucks come out,
Yeah.
get your shovels, get your snow, or get your salt to melt the snow
And
around your car and the
use your
walks.
gloves with your salt.
Yeah.
Right.
And
You
then
know,
here,
But
you
the
can't
fun
without using them.
yeah.
the
That's
And
funny
here,
the funny part is where when you go to the south, like just over the border into Kentucky or Lexington or Louisville, half an inch of snow paralyzes the entire town.
that's how
Shuts it down.
that's
Every
how it's
business
North
closes.
Carolina.
Every business closes. Every school is canceled.
yeah,
It's like they're preparing for what they think is a hurricane. And I just when I hear that I laugh my ass off
This,
because I'm like, come where I live, go
yeah,
through a single winter and tell me that you got it hard.
yeah.
this
We
is
would
this,
laugh at that.
yeah. So because I know one thing like this. I remember I was seeing my orthopedics, and one of them was from, I think it was from upstate, New York, some Pennsylvania, I think he said, and he said we moved down here, and one day it snowed, and it was just not even barely half an inch. Everything was closed and shut because we're not used to that. We get it every other year. Sometimes we don't even. Sometimes in the when it's like December, we're still kind of warm. I think the coldest we might get is maybe 60 degrees at the most, depending. I remember that one year we had bad snow, and then it was just up to barely to your ankles, in truth. But then you couldn't do much to travel because I remember it was in Louisiana when it hit, and Louisiana hit snow. I remember in Texas, they weren't used to it. We're just not used to something like that. You guys follow up north, up all the way close to the Canada borderline. Y'all used to it, but here,
It's a snow belt
Right.
capital
Right.
where I'm from.
yeah,
Right.
So I've been through
Right.
everything. When it
yeah.
comes, I
Well,
drove school bus and all that crap and everything.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you both for coming on. It's just been a wonderful discussion. I don't want to keep anybody longer than they have to be here. So, thank you so much for being willing to do this. And for everybody who happens to watch this, I hope we've helped enlighten you on the subjects of post show blues as well as dealing with some of the other issues or dealing with some of the other interesting topics that are happening around women's bodybuilding and women's physique. So, thank everybody for coming. And
Thank
I
you.
hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.
You
You too.
too.
Okay.
All right.